Councilperson Sestaki.
Here.
Councilperson Yon.
Present.
Councilperson Maples.
Here.
Councilperson Gill.
Here.
Council President Owen.
Here.
Councilperson Hawkins.
Here.
Councilperson Samuel.
Here.
Councilperson Rodriguez.
Present.
Let the record reflect all 9 council members are present.
Alrighty. Minutes to approve. We have minutes from October 16th.
I just found one small typo. Just a small one. And that was this afternoon going through everything again. It's on page 3 up there where it says, based on federal law, we are now required to exceed that amount, but since the motion was made, should be TO instead of OT. Just a minor. With that motion to approve. I'll second.
Motion and second. Anything further? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. All right. Approval of the agenda. We're going to do a couple of things. On page 2, new business, number 4, we're going to make that number 1A, only because both of those properties are with the same developer and the same project, and we might as well get it all done at once. And then also which one is it?
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes, ma'am?
Can you make 4-2? It's easier for us when we go to type the minutes.
Sure. We can do that. We're going to make number 4 number 2. And then number 8, if I'm right, is the ordinance that has to do with the amendment for the overlay district. We are still going to have our public hearing on that. However, we are not going to take action on that tonight. There have been a lot of information kind of going around, and I don't know that everybody has had an opportunity to digest all of that information. So we're going to do 2 things. We're going to have our public hearing tonight for anybody that made arrangements to be here tonight. We certainly will give you your opportunity. And then we are also going to schedule a public workshop for November the 21st, which is 2 Mondays from now at 5:30 p.m. in this room, to go over any questions that council members have with the planning department, and that way we all have an opportunity to get questions answered before we take a vote at our next council meeting. So no vote tonight. We will have a public hearing tonight. Yes.
Did you say 5:30?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. 5:30 the
It'll be on the
21st.
agenda on the 21st.
And we will have it on the agenda on the 21st at our 7 o'clock meeting also. So workshop for council questions with the planning department, and then it'll be on the agenda at the 7 o'clock meeting. And there will be an opportunity for any public comment at that time also. Okay?
So I make a motion to approve the agenda with the changes, and I for one appreciate the workshop.
I'll second those changes.
Motion and a second with the changes. Anything further? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Excellent. Claims.
Hello. We have claims tonight for $987,280.13.
And I did go in and reviewed all the claims, and pretty much everything is in order and set to for approval tonight. And Heather, thank you for allowing your staff to work so close with me. I really appreciate it, and yourself.
Well, I think
We
it
really
works
got the
best if we all
POs in
have
order,
good
and I really feel good
patience,
about
yeah.
that.
A motion.
Well, I didn't know if anybody had any questions. If they,
Just didn't know if you wanted.
nobody has any questions? Okay, then I'll make the motion to approve the $987,280.13.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second. Anything further? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Report of the clerk.
I have 2 things.
Yes, ma'am.
One is I received a letter from the Clark County Youth Shelter about their event that they have every year, the Celebrity Waiter for the holiday season. You all do one every year. As of like last year, this year it's also on a council night, so I don't know if you all attend, and didn't know if you all wanted to sponsor this or not.
I make a motion to sponsor that. I think it's a wonderful thing for us to do, even though we can't be there. I think one year it went without our attention, and we all felt really bad about that, so.
So, there's several ways. Would y'all like to put a money number? It's from 100, 250, 500, 750,
Do we
1,000.
know what we typically do?
We typically do a table,
Do a
whatever that
table.
amount is.
What is that amount?
500.
So I make the motion that we support giving the youth shelter 500.
I'll second. Motion and a second. Anything further? Favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes.
And the second thing, I received this Friday afternoon from the Fire Merit Commission. I have a bill here to be paid that is $29,650 for the promotions, testing. It was written exams, oral exams, and assessment center exercise. And in that line item, we only have $17,696.34.
What was that total again? I'm sorry.
$29,650. And I wanted to see if the possibility, since we do have a transfer, if we could add onto the transfer, or you all could do it at the next meeting if you want to do a new transfer ordinance. They moving $11,954 out of legal services and transferring it into testing. Because the bill is due, it doesn't have a due date, but first time I've seen it. I've never seen one this high.
So was given the heads up how
Nope.
much? Oh,
Nope.
okay.
Just got a
Nope.
bill, huh?
Okay. Says 4 ranks: sergeant, lieutenant, captain, and battalion chief.
Do we know, that's a company, I guess, that
We have to
performs
use
those
that company.
tests.
Mhm.
Do they contract with the Board of Public Works, or what's the basis of the bill?
That is the one that we use for testing for fire and police. I think that's what the state has recommended that
Gotcha.
is used. So they've used them forever. I know that is, it's IPSP.
Yep.
Our controller says she's fine with adding it to the transfer list tonight, if everybody else is fine with that.
And then
There's
the
more
fire
good news.
department also sent me a bill for $86.84 for meals that they did on that they worked. Instead of coming and asking for the $100, because they felt some of the members felt that for the days they were doing testing and they were doing interviews, that they should be paid $100. And we don't have that. That's not in the salary ordinance or in the budget. So they've ate instead. So I have no line item for food. So I don't know.
Where's that bill from?
Well, it's a whole group. I've got them from Pizza King and Hardee's, Burger King.
Are they receipts for reimbursement? or-
Yes.
Okay, well,
So,
Are they for reimbursement to one person, or do we have?
yes, somebody used their credit card.
Well, we would have to have W-9s on whoever.
We do. We have W-9s on
Because
all of
they're-
the people.
they're all
The person
members.
used their own credit card.
Okay. I understand they would have to eat, but I think somebody needs to relay to them that they need prior permission.
Well, I didn't know they were eating, and I just got the claim. So I don't know if I need some help on, I guess, from our controller's office on where to come up with the money for that.
I say let them eat.
reject the bill.
Let them eat.
No. Speaking for myself, I'm not going to support adding that to anything else that we have to approve because we're not going to set a precedent that a board can purchase food for a meeting without prior approval and then be reimbursed because they feel like they should be. Absolutely not. It's just my opinion. If anybody else feels differently. I know Nathan likes to eat, but it's not.
It was a
It's
simple
not in their
approval that
budget.
they, yeah.
And
Were they doing, how long did it take for them to do the interviews and the testing?
The
How many?
2 days.
3 days or 2 days?
Oh, I don't know. All I know is I get the bills.
Okay, do you know if they get a break to go get something to eat, or is it
I have no
continuous all
clue.
day long?
I just got these Friday
Set the
afternoon.
schedule.
I figured that.
They would set their own.
Well, they should definitely follow.
Okay, well,
If there's
I'll just put this
if
one.
anybody feels differently, I would say we shouldn't entertain the 86, 84. But that's a personal opinion, so if anybody else feels differently,
They can get reimbursed for it at the next.
I'm one of 9.
no, there's no
There's no line
item
item for it, right? That's the issue.
It's like they're volunteering their time.
No, they're
I thought you said they weren't,
They're
they didn't
paid.
get paid that
Yeah.
day.
Well,
They are
the way that they're paid $100 a month stipend for the meetings, whether they have 1 meeting or 6 meetings. That's how it is. That's how it's always been in the salary ordinance. So,
right.
Any questions for me? We had 3 days
Ms. Barrow.
of testing.
You may sign up for public comment, but
Oh, I just thought you might have about the fire commission.
well, if the fire commission had come before us before this came about, we may have the discussion, but
Perfect.
at this time it's not appropriate.
I'm fine.
Anything else, Ms. Conlon? All right, unfinished business, Mr. Pruitt. An ordinance establishing a landscaping fee and lieu program.
Good evening. This one will be pretty quick here. All right. So at the last council meeting, you all had asked a few questions about how this program would work and what it means as far as impact on our landscape code and what we'd be waiving, what we wouldn't, potentially if someone were to take advantage of this. And so I just wanted to clarify that. So I had staff put together and myself a little quick guide that shows you an existing development that we've already approved in the city that's already been built. And it just walks you through, if they were to take advantage of the program, what could that look like? So here is an existing site. It's a fast food chain. Won't say who, but we required a total of 66 landscape plants for this site. That's broken down into trees as well as shrubs there. And so you can see the total there. We've colored those so you can see those on those plans. And then from there, we decided to run basically 3 different scenarios of how they could take advantage of this program and still allow us to waive some. They could buy their way through that, and then we could use that funds to be expended on city property and in landscape plans elsewhere within the city, our parks and our medians and things like that. So what we did is we took out some of the evergreen trees. So we went down from 4, that column there, number required by ordinance, to number provided 2. So that's a reduction of 50%. So we allow a maximum reduction of 50% per line item on the code. The maximum reduction for the site as a whole can never exceed more than 25%. So if you do those tabulations of what was reduced on site, you can see 30 went down to 17, 4 to 2, and so on. You can see the max reduction for the property was 24%. They would meet the ordinance, and they if they so chose to put fewer trees, for instance, on the site, they could do that. The fee in lieu would be $2,700. So that would pay for probably about 27 trees in our parks or our medians or things like that at our intersections and other improvements we'd like to do, bioswales and other things within the city. So I'm just going to run through 2 other examples here. Here's another one. We get this commonly. developers talk about building visibility for their foot traffic and their vehicular traffic. So we ran another scenario where we reduced that as well. And you can see, you come up with another number there, 2,625. So it's just another potential. And you can see those little landscape nodes there, which indicate the different types of trees and things are moving around as we do this to show kind of where that lands. The third is the narrow planting strip at the sidewalk. A developer could potentially say it's a maintenance issue, or for any other reason, visibility, they may want to reduce that. We could entertain that, and then you can see you're at the 24% number there, and your fee in lieu is 1,500. So that's just another example. So here's two examples that would not be permitted. One of which, at the top there, they came in and said, hey, we'd like to only put one evergreen tree out of the 4 that's required. Well, that equates to more than 50% of a single line item, so that would not be allowed. Although they were only reducing 8% of their total landscaping, it's automatically kicked out because that one item was not correctly reduced, so it's not eligible. And then the other eligibility in scenario 4 there, they did 50% on every single item, so we just want to have everything. Well, that's not permitted because the maximum we are allowed to do is 25% of the total site, so that's another example. So that's just a quick guide there that shows you what that looks like, because I think there were some questions about how much are we waiving, and obviously we have a landscape code that is fairly robust and we want to keep the city looking good. But as I described at the last meeting, there's certain scenarios where we give landscape waivers, and I think we lose that opportunity to increase our tree canopy in downtown and other places of the city. And it works out a win-win, I think, for both the city and developers. They get some of what they need, and then we also get what we need moving forward. So, were there any questions about that?
So, would the developer make a proposal of reducing the landscaping at a planning and zoning meeting, or would that be done before they request?
Right, and so that was the other topic of conversation, is who approves it. So what we changed in the ordinance, and we sent that along, is if you look at, there's section 3 and 4. Section 3 talks about eligibility, and so, we had a conversation about, well, is the planning director approving this, or is plan commission? And I think we all decided plan commission should approve it. So we left the eligibility section there so that a developer would come in, we would have a conversation with them, we would determine that the eligibility is correct if they wanted to proceed, and I would check to make sure it fits the bill, the ordinance. And if they wanted to proceed, we would take that to plan commission during their development plan review, and the plan commission would either approve or deny that landscape fee in lieu program that they applied for. So I would just do a quick code check, just like I do with all other codes in the zoning ordinance, and then it would go on to plan commission for approval. Does that make sense?
That answers my question.
Okay.
So would they still be given the opportunity to just, we see on planning all the time, exemptions from zoning, so this will just cost them?
So the way this is structured is that it's a program, not a replacement. So waivers can always be given for landscaping by plan commission at their discretion, irregardless of this program. So this is something that has to be opted into rather than mandated. This is at the discretion of plan commission.
So it's possible for, in January's planning meeting, to somebody ask for just those variances, be rejected, and come back February and now pay for them?
That is yes, that's a potentiality, yeah, at plan commission's discretion.
Well, and this addresses some of my concerns that I expressed the first time we heard this, that this is an additional fee, and I would prefer to keep the way that variances currently operate, to where the developer has the option to discuss a variation without being then required, having risk of it being denied and then being required to pay for that same variation. So I know we had a lengthy discussion about it last time, I'm not going to get into it again, but that kind of highlights my concerns with this ordinance.
And if they meet the requirements of your proposal, and it's less than the certain percentages, what is the recourse if then the planning commission says, no, even though you're paying, we don't want to reduce this, since we're violating our own structure, do they have any recourse against the city or planning? Legal minds?
I think, so I would determine the eligibility, and I would say yes, you're eligible, or no, you're not. And then if they so chose, they would go to Plan Commission, and Plan Commission would say we approve or not approve that eligibility. And if it was denied by Plan Commission, then they could either make an on-the-spot verbal commitment, how do we normally phrase that? A voluntary commitment to meet the landscape code, and you could approve it at that time. Or you could say, we would like you to come back at the next meeting with a revised plan because we don't think that this particular site is correct for this program.
But, since I've been on planning and zoning, though, whenever we've done a waiver, it's always because of the way that the property's set up. It's not because we're just going to do less trees, because I, for one, think we need as many trees and bushes as we can get. But I don't know, I just can't wrap my head around this, I'm sorry. We decide whether there's a waiver out and see whether they need to go to you, see if they're eligible or not, and have them pay, because could have happened before I was on Plan Commission, but the majority of the sites that come, there's certain circumstances that are requiring the less landscaping, and then they usually adjust it towards the back by doing a berm, or usually there's a give and take.
I think it's highly comparable to the sidewalk in lieu of fee program, where we allow businesses to pay into that to mitigate not putting in a sidewalk when they develop. Like, I think Taco Bell in front of Rural King was an example. They didn't put in their sidewalks that we require every development to have because there was nothing for them to connect to, but instead they paid into this program, and we can use that money elsewhere to do improvements or additions.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing. I mean, we want to expand safe pedestrian walkways, but there was instances where that didn't make sense, as you mentioned, but we didn't want that responsibility to be waived or given away when there's other parts of the city that sidewalk could be used and add to the safety of the city and the pedestrians. This is the same vein in that there's times where it doesn't make sense to have a number of high trees or a number of trees because of line of sight or because of safety or unique instances for the property, but we as a community want to have trees and want to have more green space, so this is a way for the developer not to skirt their responsibility and to help our city as far as expanding its green space. So I support the idea. I do really like the idea, or the concept that it comes back to planning and zoning, though, so that it's at a public meeting and there's open discussion of why and how it affects the property and why it makes sense to do something or not do something.
I'll remind you that we've lost probably about 200 acres of trees recently on 10th Street, and we won't get those back anytime soon. And even if they meet our landscape code as it is today, we won't gain those trees back for a really long time or ever. And there's also no mechanism for us to purchase trees today on city property. Currently, the UEZ is very gracious in funding the tree walk downtown and the urban tree canopy. But if it weren't for some of those funds, we would literally, at the city level, not really have much of a budget for making sure that our tree canopy is taken care of in the rights of way, which, let's face it, is in a lot of the downtown area. A large portion of those strips of grass between the sidewalk and the street are currently in city right of way. So this just gives us another option. Again, it's not mandated, but it just gives us an option when developers would like to modify or tweak their plans a little bit. And so, best of both worlds, I suppose.
I don't think it's the burden of the developer. If the city feels that we need to have more funding for landscaping, then that should be how we prioritize our budget. And I don't think that we should charge a fee for these developers to pay for that. So again, difference of opinion, but if that's a priority that the city wants to make, then we should see that in the budgeting process and take a look at what funds are available that we could purchase more trees in those areas.
And to add to what Callie is saying, I brought it up even when we were Parks Authority, and it's a waste of taxpayers' money when we put all the landscaping in city-owned parks or develop, areas that we own, and then they're not maintained. I still see dead trees. I know there's warranties, there's no maintenance. To me, that's a loss of taxpayers' money. So
Hopefully that will improve with a green team and a new horticultural certified manager, hopefully.
How many in lieu of sidewalk fees have you guys collected last year?
That's actually a program run by the engineering department, and I'm not sure what those numbers are like. I just didn't pull that, sorry.
We've got it somewhere. Heather, would you know what fund the sidewalk fund is? The in lieu? Sorry. You don't
It's
just
under the
know?
city engineer, I thought.
You don't just know? And what's the balance? $402. 420, 412.
Thank you.
402.
Do we know, and you probably don't know this either, Nathan, but do we know what sidewalks that money's gone to repair or put in? And the reason I ask that is that I remember the Fosters came to us from Kenmar Farm, and they had an argument with West Green Oaks 2 and the development there, and there was an agreement for a $15,000 fee to help them build a retention pond.
I don't know anything about that.
I know where you're going.
We're in the middle of litigation.
Okay.
So if I understand correctly, the developer can come and ask for a waiver. A
Correct.
variance, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
and reduce the amount.
Yep,
That can be granted.
correct.
At the same time, the developer can decide that they want to contribute to the tree canopy and get a reduction and pay the fee.
Mhm.
That's not required. Okay. So they can say, no, we're not going to do that, get the waiver and move on.
Correct, yeah. Things could continue exactly how they've ever been, and we could have no developers in the next 5 years elect to try to pursue this program. This is only an option for us to try to get some of the benefits that we should be getting already, which is why the code is established as it is, to provide benefit to the city to recapture that instead of letting that opportunity slide by and never getting that opportunity again. Because once you grant the waiver, you will never see trees there again. They're not required to do that. And we can't go back and ask them to install them either.
And the Plan Commission will understand that it will not be their place to coerce someone to participate in that because it's not a requirement.
It's at the discretion of the Plan Commission, so they can find suitable or not suitable the granting of a waiver at any point that is allowed by state statute. So it's really, it's all the power lands in Plan Commission's lap for what they would like to do.
This is just another tool that we can use if someone decides to be gratuitous in that. social
Yes, generally,
corporate
yes.
responsibility
Mhm.
type.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion we pass ordinance 2016 OR 67 on a second and third reading.
Second?
And a roll call vote, please.
Okay, there's a motion and a second with a roll call requested. Is there anything else? Okay.
Councilperson White.
Aye.
Councilperson Sestavny.
Yes?
Councilperson Yon.
No.
Councilperson Maples.
Yes.
Councilperson Gill.
No.
Council President Owen.
Yes.
Councilperson Hawkins.
Yes.
Councilperson Samuel.
Yes.
Councilperson Rodriguez.
No.
Six, four, and three. No.
6-3. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Pruitt. You are on to the next one also,
Yes.
OR 70.
I do have one handout, if you don't mind, I'd like to bring up to you guys.
This is the change in the fee schedule, is that right?
Yes, yes it is. Okay, so at the last meeting, we had discussed also the changing of the fee schedule in our zoning ordinance, which is in Article 12, and those have not been changed since 2000. That's 16 years. If you look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Price Index, the dollar in 2000 is now basically a dollar then is now $1.40. Basically, it equates to a 40% increase over time within the consumer world of the cost of things. So I just want to put that number out there from the very beginning, that there's a 40% change within consumer pricing generally. That's why things generally increase in cost and salaries go up over time because of that gradual change, and it's just a natural economic progression that happens. I'm not an economist, so I can't exactly explain it, but that's that. So there's two components to this ordinance, and one, of course, is that fee structure change to make it more in step with the actual market as well as our peer communities. And so I guess since I'm already talking about it, I'll just go on and kind of tell you what I've just given you. Basically, what I gave you there is peer communities at the top there and their fees that they currently have. So what we did is we took the mean of those fees, the average, and then we looked at the percent increase that we would like to take our fees that currently are existing against that mean. So what that means is how are we keeping step with our peer communities in our fee structures that we charge for planning and zoning services and those types of things. And so what I want to keep you aware of is the fact that only at 66% of our fees that I'm proposing we change to that new limit or the new required fee structure for rezonings and platting, which all involves a lot of staff cost and time. 66% of those are under the 40% mark. And that 40% mark, again, is the CPI, that gradual increase of cost of things over time. So 2/3 are under that 40% target. The other third are a little bit higher, but not by much. And if I do want to draw one attention mark here as well, if you look at rezonings and look at commercial, industrial, that is less than 0.5 acres, that is going from $275 at its current rate to $500 at the new fee structure. That is 26% low than the average of what other peer communities charge for rezoning on commercial properties at a half acre or less. What that means is this is very light on small business and small lots and commercial lots. So we've made this very sensitive to the small business owner who wants to rezone a property from, say, R2 to C1 or C2. In other words, we're actually giving them a bit of a discount versus our peer communities. So I just wanted to make sure that was up front there. The other portion, of course, is the certificate of zoning compliance. That we discussed the fee of $50. It protects us legally, and it also protects the business owner legally, that they get a certificate that proves that their use, based on that interpretation of the zoning department, is compliant with the zoning code. Therefore, we don't get into any legal battles or disputes or he said, she said environments. We have had those numerous times. I just actually found out today, staff was doing research on some of these fees and peer communities for me, that Bloomington actually charges $99 for their certificate of zoning compliance, Bloomington, Indiana. So ours is $50, and then we also discussed the impact of a fine and what that would look like if businesses were to be opening without the proper checks with my department, since it is a requirement. We discussed that the building commission has the option to double their building permits if a structure's begun to be built without compliance and without pulling a building permit. So we thought, from what I gathered at the meeting, that doubling to 100 would be an acceptable fine to pursue in the case of someone not doing that first step and first check with us. So with that, I'll conclude and take questions.
When was the last time our fees were adjusted?
2000. So these fees are from 2000, when 2000 OR 61 was passed. That took effect in January of 2001. So we're looking at 16 years, roughly, of these fees
Are they in line with
being unchanged.
Parksville's?
So
I didn't know if the public could see that very well or not, so I'm asking.
Well, I think the Fishers and the Carmel numbers really just pad it up. When you're looking at when you're looking at Clarksville and Columbus and New Albany, which are all surrounding, and then you look at Fishers and Carmel that are, above $1,000, for example, that really pushes up the average, I think. So, I mean, you can plug any numbers in here, and I think you're going to get different results. But I think if you just look at the columns that are closer to Jeffersonville, they're lower than, Clarksville doesn't have a fee, for example, for rezoning.
Well, they do. Actually, we just didn't find the information in time. I apologize for that. We were gathering quickly, and so NA actually just means unknown at this moment. Apologize for that.
Okay, that's fine.
So what is that? Do we know what those fees are that we can plug into the spreadsheet?
No, I don't currently have Clarksville's numbers.
Oh, okay.
They weren't listed online, so we had some of them online, but not all of them. Like their preliminary subdivision plat in Clarksville is $750. Ours is currently $400. So, it just depends on which ones you're looking at. A lot of these communities are fast growth communities and are that are some of the higher values. But again, I want to stress to you that if you look at timescales, 40%, I think the CPI is a good indicator of looking at where we should be taking these fee structures. Obviously, I want to remind you that we did bump up one of our planner staff to a new pay grade because we wouldn't be able to gain him on staff as a long-range planner had we not done so. I am always cognizant of the fact that my office is heavily funded from tax rolls rather than from the general fund rather than a self-funded revenue. So that's something that I keep in mind as well. So we want to provide as many services as we can to the city, and we want to try to benefit all of our services to the city and make that partnership between the development community and the planning office and the time spent and the future time spent and the more staff potentially that will be needed in the future, something that's more revenue neutral. So that's another consideration as well. But
and again, maybe my understanding of CPI is incorrect, but my degree in economics is telling me that when you look at this percent mean and you're talking about 2/3 being below 40%, that's below 40% of what that mean is, which takes into consideration these higher numbers from Fishers and Carmel. You're not looking at increasing $1 at 40%. So if currently we charge $275 for a rezoning fee, that's not an increase of 40%. What's being increased is 40% from the mean that was calculated. So does that? Mm-hmm. So if we look at these numbers that we're currently charging, we say we want to increase those 40% based on the inflation of the dollar, then we can do that just flat down, but this is looking and comparing at what 40% above this mean that was calculated is. And I don't trust that mean is a good indicator of what we should be charging for some of these.
I would just comment, Nathan, that I appreciate you wanting to look out for the taxpayers, but I would suspect that most everybody business that comes in and would have to pay this fee, they're also probably going to be paying taxes on that property or increase the value of that property to pay more taxes on that property. And it seems like I think we funded your department adequately. Maybe there's shortfalls, but to me, unless there's specific needs for increasing fees, I would reserve that for a time when we need to increase fees, not just to increase them because our neighbors are higher. Just my thought.
Two things, if I could. So one is the commercial corridor of 10th Street, where all of our commercial development's happening, is in the TIF. So the general fund won't see any of those increased values, so that will not go into the general fund. Well, now I forgot the second thing.
Well, let me ask you a question. As far as when there's a rezoning, for example,
sure,
we're required to legally notify all the adjacent property owners. Is that correct?
We eat those costs.
Do you do that by certified mail?
We do not. We do it by just first class, but we eat that cost.
Class. Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to try to figure out what's the cost to do what you need to do to propose a rezoning that may or may not happen. But I was just curious because you said it looks like the larger the property being rezoned, the higher the fee, so there must be some relationship to the cost or services.
There's more staff
provided.
time, there's more letters, there's more geographic area to consider. I remember the other thing I was going to tell you. So in 2015, I believe, actually no, it was 2014 because we didn't do an annual report last year with transition, our department collected $24,000 roughly in fees. Our budget is obviously a lot larger than that, and I think we are fairly adequately funded at this time with staff and what we need. But that was just that reference point there. But like you say, you know, the bigger the project, the more scrutiny and the more, and to be honest with you, the more opportunity, the more, the bar is higher to get it right. So if a PUD comes in and it's 200 acres, I want staff to spend as much time on it as possible, and they're going to expend a lot of energy on it, and there's going to just be a lot of things that are involved with that. There's going to be more letters. It's just one of the, and to get that at a high quality, you need expertise, which goes back to the wages and getting the talent you need, which is higher wages. So it kind of all feeds into itself. Is kind of where I was going.
I like the fee for the zoning certificate to me because it's kind of pushing the business license. So we know what's coming here. The neighborhood know what's coming into their, you know, their neighborhood. So some of these fees seem excessive, but it did come with a favorable recommendation from planning and zoning, but I don't know about the fees.
I believe this would,
I've had enough negative comments with it. Sorry, Nathan.
no, it's okay. Go ahead.
Poor Nathan.
This is 70. This was tabled at the last meeting in October. Right.
Was there any public comment about this? I'm just curious.
Is there any public comment for OR 16 OR 70? I think those are probably for the downtown overlay.
Oh, somebody does want to speak.
I wasn't aware this was on the agenda, but I'll speak to this.
Would you say your name and address?
Charles Smith,
please?
5150 Charlestown Road is my official address. I'm here as a representative of the National Association of Home Builders.
You have 2 minutes, Mr. Smith.
So as far as some of the commercial stuff goes, it doesn't seem to be too out of line. I would question some of the residential items. And when you're pulling those numbers together, I'd make sure to pull it from, to some of your points, not pulling it from out of region. I would look at the Clark, Floyd, Scott, Harrison, Washington County region when you start comparing those numbers before you make a decision on that. Any of those increased fees is obviously going to be pushed down to the homeowner, increasing the cost of housing, which, as we know, we have a shortage of right now. So just a word of caution to that, making sure those fees are just and equitable for the residents and the developer and the city as well.
Thank you. Any other council comments? We'll look for a motion.
Before it's motioned, Nathan, I have a question, and it might be for that table. So if we decide to pass this ultimately as it's before us, could council, would we have to do, say we heard back from people and some of these items were too much, would we then have to vote to amend this for each item, or could they be clumped together into this package of new fees?
Either.
Well, yeah, you started with the council, Senate planning commission, come back to you, but answer your question, you clumped together as a package.
Unless, if I'm not mistaken, this can be done at any time. The fee schedule can be adjusted at any time.
And we could make adjustments to certain fees and not others,
Yes.
or all of them collectively, right?
This just takes one reading because it's an amendment.
And we wouldn't need to go back to planning for that. I mean, we would just decide.
If you initiate a change to the zoning code, which you can, it still has to go back to the planning commission for their review and a hearing, and then it comes back to you.
And then we can ignore what they say.
Yeah, it's still advisory.
They give a recommendation.
You initiate it, it still has to go back.
All right. Well, because,
Not ignore, disagree.
okay, thank you.
I mean,
Because, and I'm so glad Mr. Wilson said what he said, that like these fees, when we're saying like businesses pay these, no, I just philosophically, that's not, to me, that's just not the case. People pay these fees, and the fee is eventually going to trickle down in some manner through less income for someone or an additional cost for someone. Now, I'm in agreement that the fees need to be updated, but I think Hallie put it pretty well, that I think that our updated fees in many of these cases are inflated because of who we're comparing to. So, I mean, I agree that they should be moved forward, and I also agree, I like from our conversation about the certificate of compliance, I think I'm in a happy place with that. But some of these, because these are also fees that people are paying ultimately, that may not achieve what they want. So I could lay out a couple $1,000 here in a potential investment in Jeffersonville, and I'd just wave that money goodbye. So that's why anytime we're talking about fees and we're talking about businesses paying them, that's just not true. You know, ultimately someone is writing a check for that. So I just think they're high. If the council is in support of all this, you know, I won't be the standalone guy against it, but I will certainly be looking at these fees to cut them back to somewhere where I think is more in line with where they should be.
I want to bring up an additional, re-mention that we discussed the ability to enforce the certificate of zoning compliance at our last meeting as well, and that was really a big question mark. If we're requiring businesses that want to have a zoning change or that are currently not in compliance, and then we're going to fine them until they file this certificate, how do we enforce that? That's just another additional fee. So I just want to bring that conversation, mention it again, just when we're thinking about passing something like that, that's an important component to any ordinance that we need to consider. I mean, are we going to be reactionary if we just stumble across something that we realize they're in violation and we need to have them, how are we going to get information out about this? I mean, there's a lot of questions that...
Would you like me to address? So currently today, if there's a use violation on the zoning code, I can fine up to $10,000 a year through code enforcement. So at the end of the day, I already have the tools to start imposing fines and fees until they come to compliance, or they take us to court, or we take them to court. But again, this is another legal protection tool for the legal department, the planning office, to make sure that this is upfront. And I understand that sometimes somebody may not know, but I think the one-off chance that somebody doesn't follow through with seeking confirmation to protect them legally as a business owner, not doing that for all, I think is maybe a little short-sighted in my perspective. Because right now, all I can tell people on the phone, all the clerk can tell them on the phone, redevelopment and the building commissioner's office, is that they would highly suggest you talk to planning and zoning. If you would like to interpret the code yourself as far as your use compliance, you may do so at your own risk. I would like to kind of move into a more engaged role with business owners to make sure that they're protected up front and give them a piece of paper that legally is much more protectionary for them and for the department right up front. So that's my goal, and I understand that it's going to have to be communicated out, and I get that, and I'll do my best effort.
Well, I know code enforcement's out every day, but I view this certificate of zoning, yes, it is $50. Most of them may not know, which you can use your discretion and not don't, but I also see this, that $50 is actually saving taxpayers money, because it costs us a fortune when we got to take this to court, because it's dragged out forever.
The litigation fees are very high,
And a lot
and time
of them that
spent.
we caught, either hit your office or us driving by or complaint I've gotten from my district, ends up costing the city because it ends up in court. And a lot of them do know what they're doing. They know they need to come here, but they just don't.
They choose not to.
Does that stop, does $50 stop them from opening something that they shouldn't?
No, but it gives us the opportunity when they call to tell them that they're required to come to us rather than you can if you so wish. That's, it forces the connection.
Still do it.
Sure, yes, yes. They could still open, but then we have a legal mechanism to present to the court that says, we spoke with them and we told them right up front.
Or what it does is it gives them a certificate saying, hey, we complied. Now, there's a new planning and zoning director, a new, administration, and they say, wait, you're not in compliance. They say, look, I complied. I got a sign off from the administration. So it protects them in a way too. It's just not the negative part, the punishment part. It's the up front. Hey, I'm in compliance and you can't tell me I'm not. I'm certified.
Are you gonna, I guess we're gonna decide here if they're gonna adjust the fees or not. Sounds like that's our discussion.
Sounds like there are plenty of members who feel like maybe the fees need to be adjusted back.
I really would like to see Clarksville's before making decisions.
I'd also like to see it go back before the planning commission if the fees are changed, so that they can have a...
They would have to, yeah.
Yep.
I'm just making note of, I heard you guys earlier.
How about a motion to table? I'll make a motion to table, wanting to see what Clarksville fees are, as well as maybe some of these other fees that haven't been filled in here, like New Albany's variance fees, or is it zero, or is it NA because we weren't able to get that information?
It's most likely NA, yeah.
So we weren't able to get it?
Yeah, we just didn't have it at
So
the
if we
time.
do a little more research? Okay.
Yeah, we can do
Yeah,
that.
so with the idea of having more time, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to table.
Second it.
There's a motion and a second to table. Is there anything further? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes.
Thank you.
Nathan, once you get those, circulate them to the council members that have their concerns and get their feedback.
Absolutely,
And that's you have a general understanding of where we want to go.
absolutely.
Thank you.
16 OR 71, Ms. Metcalf, this is an ordinance transferring certain funds within the same department. These are monies being transferred around the animal shelter and also in the fire department.
Any changes?
No.
Motion to approve 2016 OR 71, a third and final.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Number 4, this is a public hearing for an additional appropriation in the fire pension fund that we had discussed previously. There are no changes. At this time, we'll open a public hearing. 7:55. Is there anybody to speak for or against 2016 OR 72? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
I'll make
Motion
a motion, we pass OR 72.
on third and final.
Yes.
I second that.
Motion and second. Anything further? All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Mr. Merkley, new business. This is also a public hearing. To change the zoning, 4900 block of New Chapel Road from R3 to C2.
And as noted earlier in the meeting, there are two zoning requests in reference to this development, and we are going to combine both of those for one presentation, but there are two separate ordinances, so we require two separate votes. But this is in reference to the development being proposed by Brandon Denton and his group. It is to rezone property, two parcels, I think it's three parcels, to be honest with you. One from R3 to C2, and another from R1 to C2. And I will turn things over to Mr. Denton. He is here, and also has representatives from Heritage Engineering as well.
Good evening, John Campbell with Heritage Engineering, and with me is Brandon Denton of Denton Floyd, the developers working on this project. This is the first phase of a multi-step process to create a PD development in the intersection of 10th Street, Highway 62, and the expanded Interstate 265 connection over to Louisville. This is actually for 2 parcels. We did have an original application for 4 parcels total. 2 of those submittals, we were not able to have the affidavit signed off on, so we pulled those from that Planning Commission hearing a week ago. Most likely we will be back to bring those parcels into this project prior to formally filing the PD book. As mentioned, we're rezoning and if you want me to do the projector, I can, but that one would be fine. So the starting at the top there where it says zone change from R3 to C2, that is a 7.28 acre parcel, and that is in fact part of this rezoning request today. The label directly below that where it says zone change from R3 to C2, and it sort of points down to a much smaller tract, that is correct. That parcel is actually owned by the same landowner, but there was another entity involved, so they cleared that up. Again, we think we will be back, but we just didn't have that resolved a week ago, so that is not part of the request tonight. And then the next one below that where it says IS to C2, I think that was the old fire department or fire station. That parcel is not part of this at this time, and we would like to include that, but that will be determined at a later date. And then the last parcel is farther along the Interstate 265, all the way to the east there, and that's the zone change from R1 to C2. It is a large parcel, and it kind of completes that entire frontage there of the Interstate 265 corridor, and will allow us to bring all of that into a mixed-use type development. The client did agree as part of that Planning Commission review to deed restrict that property for what we envision that intended use to be, which is for an assisted living type community and facility. Even though we're rezoning it C2, that is really just to establish the planned development district. But again, it's not going to be a commercial use. It's not going to have those intense commercial uses. It will be deed restricted for the assisted living use and facility. So the outline you see there, the blue dashed area, that is the parcels that our client has pieced together or is in the process of piecing together. All of the other parcels there, except for the 4 we talked about, are already Zone C2. So once this rezoning is in place and we hopefully can add in the other parcels within the next month, we'll be ready to submit the formal PD application and talk about in detail the mixed use and the components of that. I'd be happy to answer any other questions, and again, Brandon Denton is with me, and he can elaborate or answer any other questions you may have.
Scott and I attended one of the neighborhood meetings that was talking about this development, since it touches both of our districts, and there wasn't any negative feedback that I heard. Scott, I don't know if you heard any at that particular meeting. Mostly just wanting to know what could potentially be there, and I think a lot of those concerns were addressed, and it was a very positive neighborhood meeting of all the property owners that would be impacted by this change.
And I publicly thanked you all in planning and zoning, but I just want to applaud you again for that community meeting, because that's something that I really appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Were there any other questions? All right, so we've got to do this in two ordinances here. The first one is for the 4900 block of New Chapel Road. That'll be 16 OR 73. So at this time, we're going to open a public hearing, ordinance 2016 OR 73. Is there anybody in the public who would like to speak for or against that rezoning? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing on that one.
Real quick, and
Sure.
I just wanted to make council aware, we did have a discussion in planning about what assisted living means, and that can be different phases. It's just not totally managed care, and planning was totally fine with that. We're glad Brandon brought it up. He had more than one informational meeting. We went to one. There was even another because there was quite a bit of misinformation that got spread through the vagary of putting the sign on the wrong property
Yeah,
for a
I
couple of
remember.
days. People exploded in that area. All of those people, which I talked to many, over 20, they were all mitigated. Everybody was calm. So if you've heard any of that, that's all been kind of mitigated, and that was just a product of some bad luck and some bad communication. But with what Callie said, nothing but positive since we got through the miscommunication phase of this.
Appreciate you guys being willing to reach out and talk to residents and kind of be open with what's going on and what your plans are. It makes a big difference.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
I'd like the motion.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and second for 16 OR 73. Anything further? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay. OR 74 will be for the 3100 block of Utica Sellersburg Road, which is the piece for the assisted living. At this time, we're going to open a public hearing for that piece. If there's anybody to speak for or against that rezoning. Guess not. Close the public hearing. Is there anything further? There's a motion.
Motion?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second for OR 74. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Like everybody's here for one certain thing we haven't gotten to yet. Pass that down, please. All right, Mr. Merkley. Ordinance changing the zoning. This is for 812 Penn Street.
Yes, this is currently a property that is zoned Old City Residential R3. The request is to rezone that to institutional. That comes to you with a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission. I believe the applicant is here tonight to discuss the proposal with the council. Angela Ray.
Good evening. I'm Angela Ray. I'm a social worker and I'm the director of Family Time. Family Time's a social service agency located in Jeffersonville. We've been here for 15 years and we provide services to families who are involved in the Child Protective Services system, Department of Child Services. So we work to ensure child safety and to help reunify families. One of the programs that we started 2 years ago is called a day reporting program. This program is for youth who have been abused, neglected, or are involved in the juvenile justice system. The youth are referred to us from juvenile probation officers or Department of Child Services family case managers. And our job with those youth is to supervise them for 4 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and to provide services which are based in the 6 domains of positive youth development. So we work with them on independent living skills, education, health, things like that. And our main offices of Family Time are located at the Community Action of Southern Indiana building, which is the former East Lawn School on 8th Street. You're probably mostly familiar with it. And the day reporting program outgrew that facility and needed a facility of its own. So we are social workers and we're poor, so we bought a building from the sheriff's sale. And we're also not schooled in zoning, so we sort of went about this a little bit backwards. But the fellows in zoning have been really helpful in helping us understand what we needed to do in order to get the building zoned properly for the program that we wish to have in there. And so we're asking that the zoning be changed from the old residential to institutional so we can have the program. And again, the program is Monday through Friday. There's no overnight component. The kids are there from approximately 2:30 till 7:30 at the latest. And they're fully supervised the time that they're there by social work professionals, and we usually would have only, so far 8 are the highest number of youth that we've had. At one point were 8 kids. And we need it to be a little house. That's what the building is, because For example, one of the domains that we're working on is independent living, and the day reporting hours go past through the supper hour. So the kids have to plan the meals, cook the meals, shop for the food, clean it up. They have to mow the grass and help maintain the property. So it's a very appropriate space for us to do the program. So we just ask that you approve our request. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, at planning and zoning, the only concern was the parking, but that was all worked out. I think it was a little misunderstanding between yourselves and the church that was
Yeah.
there with the bus and that. And also wanted to point out that they already made major improvements to that property. The kids they worked hard in cleaning that up, and I applauded that.
They filled the biggest dumpster you can get, 40-yard, I think, filled it up.
I'll
It's a
just,
good organization, they do good work.
Mhm.
In my professional life, I have to send clients to them, and I know they are reputable and something that is needed.
I just added what Dustin said. I know Angela and Family Time very well, and they're good group of people. So I make a motion to approve 2016, public hearing.
Public hearing, yep. At this time, we're going to open a public hearing. If there's anybody who would like to speak for or against the rezoning at 812 Penn Street, please step forward. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. And now, Mr. Samuel.
Make a motion to approve 2016 OR 75.
I'll second.
Motion in many seconds. Anything further? All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Mr. Merkley again. This is a zoning change at 4315 Utica Sellersburg Road from R2 to C1.
And I believe this also comes with a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission, and it does. The request from the applicant is to use the property for personal storage, and Corey Ritchie is the applicant. Is Mr. Ritchie here? Someone representing Mr. Ritchie?
And maybe the Plan Commission members, if Mr. Ritchie was at the meeting.
He was.
Is there good understanding of what storage means and what it doesn't mean?
Yes, we were very thorough with him, and also that if he has any other plans for that property other than the storage, he knows that he has to come back and go through the certain process for that. Because he said down the road, he may want to start a business out of that or whatever.
If I remember correctly, he was kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's zoned residential. He couldn't have an auxiliary building on it until he had a home on it, but eventually he just wants to put his shop there, which if it's zoned that way, he wasn't allowed to do that. So by changing the zoning now, he can go ahead and build his building, which he'll just use for personal storage now, but eventually will be a business. He was just caught in this kind of web of zoning. So we supported, he explained it, we supported it at Plan.
I concur.
I don't know the applicant or if that's the person who has always had that property, but living in that area, I know, or growing up in that area, I know that it wasn't always the most desirable place, and then it was cleaned up really well, and hopefully will continue to improve. I guess this is a public hearing also. Is there anybody to speak for or against OR 76? No? We'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
Motion to pass 2016 OR 76.
Second.
Motion and second. Anything further? All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Right. Ms. Conlon, an ordinance amending 2015 OR 18, which amends several others regarding the petty cash and cash change funds.
Okay, this will be 77. What this is in regards to, there was a change, if you will look on page 2. Prior, it had said court, and in order for us to take money, we have to have a ordinance violation, and the traffic bureau, we have to have a petty cash fund or a cash change funds established. Prior it said court, so it's only just a wording, a name change. And then also on wastewater, it's under the top, wastewater billing office manager for petty cash fund is $100.
Any questions?
Motion to approve 2016 order 77 on the first and second reading.
Motion and a second to approve on the first and second reading. Anything further? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Ms. Metcalf, ordinance transferring certain funds.
Tis the end of the year, and there are many. I don't know if you want me to go through every single one of them, but we did verify that there are funds there to cover those transfers. And then also, if you wanted to add the one for it was fire merit, correct, that we were talking about?
Yeah.
From legal to testing for $11,954, right?
Yes, that's what I wrote down.
I'm sure this list will be just as long, if not longer,
I just
next
had a question, the chief's not here, but about the police vehicles. It appears that we're going to be purchasing more vehicles. I was thinking a month ago, we said we're good on vehicles. Did I misunderstand?
The chief has been working on rotating out some of the, as I understand it, some of the Chevy Caprices, the last remaining of those. And also, this money is to put towards purchase of vehicles for 2017. He wanted to go ahead and make the payment early so that next year he could be ahead of the game on having some of those ordered. It's to get ahead on the replacement, not necessarily any new or additional.
We won't be doing a reduction next year by this. They'll just be able to buy additional next year, correct?
I didn't say that.
All right, thank you.
I do have a question on the aquatic center.
Yes.
We're taking from that overtime, the 630, 48,
Yes.
moving it into other supplies. But yet I do remember we've already had several.
You just increased the budget for overtime probably 1 or 2 meetings ago,
Yes,
yes.
so then why are we doing that just to reduce it?
Good question. It looks to me like the amount that you changed from the last time would be, and with this reduction, should be sufficient to get through the end of the year.
But you understand my
I absolutely agree.
question. We did it twice.
We put the numbers in the box.
Huh? They're not good at answering my questions,
know,
so I'm
I know.
hoping that I do get an answer to this question.
I will forward that question to the department head, yes.
Is there anything further?
I'll make a motion to pass OR 78. I think that was the number.
Yes, sir.
First and second?
First and second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Anything further? All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. 79, Ms. Metcalf, you're on the roll.
All
Additional
right.
appropriation. We'll have a public hearing next time.
Yes. The first two are for insurance reimbursements. I believe that you did get some emails going around for the safety vehicle.
The one that was wrecked.
The third one for the Cume Capital Improvement for IT is for new telephones. Matt Dyer's here if you'd like to speak with him about what that's about.
I would, because I didn't know we needed more. I thought that was taken out of your budget for next year.
The phones that we have currently now, we can't get support on them, and because we can't get support on them, it's making it harder when the equipment starts to fail. It's just, we can't do anything with it.
You did have this in the budget for next year, and it was removed when we had budget cuts. However, it was identified after we tried to take some art money out of the CUME-CAP improvement fund that we could only use that money for certain things, and this did fit that.
Correct.
Those certain things. I think that's why they're asking that we go ahead and approve this, because we didn't fit that into the budget, making that connection that we could use these funds for this purpose.
That's
before
correct.
the budget was approved.
But we took it out of the budget for a reason, right?
Because it was in the general
It
fund.
was in the general.
Yeah. We took it out of the budget to make the budget work.
So the 68,000 is replace all telephones within?
It will replace all city halls, the north plant, the downtown plant, Station 2, vehicle maintenance, streets, and out in that area.
And this
You're
is,
saying it's needed.
Correct.
It's in this, a need. Okay.
I must have missed the email about the vehicle that was wrecked.
Oh, Amir, safety director, they totaled out his car. He was involved in that head-on collision.
Oh, okay.
And actually, we are getting more back in insurance than what we paid for that because he bought the government package. So this is actually the insurance check. This is that amount.
The 45,000. What kind of vehicle is it?
It is a Durango. Oh, is it Tahoe?
Tahoe.
Tahoe, sorry. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah, he went on survived.
Absolutely.
it was, yes. We have receipted these money, I'm sorry, was there anything else from Mr. Dyer?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Just
Thanks.
to point out again, it's coming from CUME-CAP money, not general fund money.
I was just
CUME
sticker shock.
capital improvement money, that's not CUME capital development money.
Right.
Yeah, this
Two
is
different
from
funds.
cigarette
That's very
taxes,
specific.
and there's about 600,000 in cash in this fund.
Okay, thank you.
And just to clarify, Heather, we have receipted the monies for the police vehicles, correct?
Yes.
And when you say there's 600,000 in this fund, is that what the projected end of the year balance will be, or is that just what it sits now and we still?
That's as it is right now, yes. There's not been very much budgeted or spent out of there in years prior.
Do we have a motion?
Do you want me to go through the rest of them, or?
No. Sure.
Okay. I could skip it. The one for the building commission equipment and the fire uniform, I guess the fire department is transferring a vehicle to the building commission, and this is kind of their way of paying it forward and transferring some of their budget to the fire budget. And then the last one for the animal shelter is also an insurance reimbursement.
Questions?
I'll make a motion to pass OR 79 on the first and second.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Anything further? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Number 8, West Mercury, public hearing on an ordinance amending portions of the zoning ordinance to align with the recently adopted comprehensive plan.
This as well comes to you from the Planning Commission with a favorable recommendation, an amendment to the zoning code, and I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Pruitt, because evidently he's attracted a crowd tonight, so I'm going to let him be on the hot seat, so.
Not voting on it.
So even though we've decided not to take action tonight, it still gets the number of 80?
And just to build a little bit more suspense here, but I think Mr. Pruitt's going to make a presentation, and I know it appears that there's consensus among council members to table this before any actions is taken, and possibly to a workshop. Regardless of that, I would recommend that you still have the public hearing, because we've noticed for a public hearing, and it would just simplify things, because if we did not do that, we'd have to notice for another public hearing, so.
Right.
Good evening. Thanks for having me tonight speak about this item, or having me before you. Want to quickly point you guys to a document that we bound for you guys. Hopefully you had a nice copy in your packet. It's the Jeffersonville Employment Forecasting and Housing Build-Out Scenarios. This went out to Redevelopment Commission, Plan Commission. Most of you have actually heard it because you sit on other boards. And basically, it's a 9-page report that looks at our future growth within a 5 and then also a 10-year time scale, and then even forward from that a little bit. Basically, it talks about...
Do you have another one of those?
This is the only one I have. You can have it.
I printed my own packet, so I didn't
I
have
was
that.
gonna say, I have a copy from redevelopment if you,
Thank you.
you need one, Nathan?
I'm okay. I think I'm okay for now. So definitely dive into that. If you have any questions, reach out to our department. That's one of the things that, with bringing the long-range planner on board, thank you for supporting him and getting those changes made to that position back earlier this year. That's some of the product and work that we're able to do with that staff position. So I just want to make you all aware of that. We invited Greater Clark County Schools to that redevelopment meeting where that information was presented, because with more housing and more workforce, we have obviously more children. So that's going to have an impact on their school system as well. So we wanted to make sure that they were brought up to speed and in the conversation early on. So that's kind of the preface. Based on that report, we know that we're going to be in a housing crunch in the city of Jeffersonville in the next 5 years. And as a result, we're looking to do some smart targeted development that will partially take care of some of that housing need moving forward, both in diversity of options and the trends for the types of housing that are desired by different segments of the population, but also just sheer growth in numbers and workforce development that's happening. We're only looking to house about 23% of the new workforce that's coming. That's very small. So we know that a lot of people are going to commute in. We know that already to take jobs. But we do want to give options for those people who do want to live and work in Jeff to have that option to live and work in Jeff. So get into that report, dive into all those numbers. It's a pretty fun report to read, actually, I think. One additional thing I wanted to pass out real quick is the Exhibit C for Article 9. We had a little miscommunication there with a draft that was sent rather than the certified copy. You all got this via email, but I want to give you a paper copy right now. And then I'm going to run through 12 quick slides. I won't go into too much detail because most of you already heard this presentation before. So what's before, what I'm bringing before you guys tonight with a favorable recommendation from Plan Commission is a downtown residential overlay district. What that does is it's something that we're taking at the direction of our comprehensive plan. So within our comprehensive plan, we have a vision statement. We adopted this in 2015, and it basically says that within this overarching strategic framework, we want to build ourselves as a city that defines itself through vibrant downtown living options. Sorry. No, you're good.
We're good.
We're good.
Yeah, two.
Are you good? Yep. Okay. So we want to promote planned growth. Planners generally want to do that. We want to be distinct and deliberate with what we're seeking to attract. We want to revitalize downtown and other areas that are seeing investment and need investment. One of the things that we're working on is the Arts and Cultural District, which this is directly adjacent to and actually partially contained within. We're helping redevelopment move that forward. We want to obviously take into account this new connectivity we have with the bridges. We want to provide a range of housing. All of these things that I'm mentioning here are actual goals within our comprehensive plan. These aren't things that I've decided that we should pursue. These are things that have been defined within our comprehensive plan as future goals. Of course, economic development is something we're always pushing for in our downtown. So what's the purpose of this district? Well, there's three purposes. One is to expand our options for beneficial residential development downtown. It's going to allow for buildings to get out of that suburban design standard that prevents them from being able to develop to the property lines, near the sidewalk, and it also opens up the option for them to not have to do ground floor retail. Currently, all downtown residential multi-story DC zone developments would be required to put first floor retail. There's kind of a threshold for how much we can support of that downtown. We also don't want to take away from Spring Street. We want to make sure Spring Street always stays very highly occupied, highly active, and businesses are successful, so we can't dilute ourselves too much. We have to be mindful of that. So the other thing that it does, number two, is that it helps promote pedestrian environment on the commercial side of things. So we know we're going to get commercial style structures that come in on Court Avenue, for instance. We actually have quite a few lots there that front on Court that are empty. So if those come in, we need those to help support what we're already doing with the American Legion property, which is going to be a pedestrian-friendly building that addresses the street by being close to it, doesn't have drive-throughs, for instance, between the sidewalk and the curb, or the building, which obviously degrades the environment of the public. When you're traversing those experiences, they're not quite as friendly because you've got cars going on both sides of you. It doesn't allow for as many tree wells and landscaping and things like that. So this is another component. It allows us to bring those buildings up to the corners and make sure those entrances and drives and those parking arrangements are the least intrusionary and the least public space degrading. We're going to have a real challenge getting people from residing at places like the new M-Fine development, the senior housing complex, across Court and past that arts and cultural district into our downtown because of that road width. And to help support that, one thing we need to do is bring buildings closer to those street walls on Court. And so this is the second thing that this ordinance will help promote. The third thing is we talk about materials in this. So right now, if a developer wants to come into downtown Jeff and build a pole barn, they are legally allowed to do so. As long as they set the setback requirements appropriately, they are allowed to build a metal sided pole barn in downtown. They could also build a completely concrete masonry block building if they so chose. They could also build a 100% EIFS structure if they so chose to do so. So right now we have 0 high quality design standards for our downtown or actually for the entire city of Jeff. That puts us in a bit of precarious position when we're looking for high quality development that's going to last for a while, that's going to promote higher property values, promote a pleasant experience, and augment and enhance all the many projects that we've already done with high quality materials such as Big Four Station Park and those types of things. And not to mention the existing great historic structures that we have that are oftentimes brick and have limestone cornices or window sills, and then they have great cornice and dental work on their buildings. And so we want to build up from there. We don't want to detract from that. So this sets design standards for high quality materials as well. All right, so this is basically one slide that summarizes 9 pages of information. And so what's the big message? Where do we put all the units that we're expecting, and do we have room? So the issue at hand, and the reason why we did this study, is we know that we're growing, and so we're going to have some growth to kind of find a place for lack of better words. So the issue is that what we're finding from this report is that the residential growth forecast is much greater than the land available. In other words, we're going to run out of room. We'll hit our jurisdictional boundary. We'll be 100% built out. We'll have no future room for schools, any of the public services, roadways, fire stations, police stations, museums, libraries, any of those things. We will be capped out and have no future growth unless we tear things down and build up higher, or tear other things down that get old and then rebuild. And that doesn't happen very quickly or that often. So what we're expecting is by 2022, this is a 5-year timeline, we're going to get 17,000 new jobs. This is both from River Ridge as well as just natural commercial job growth. So your offices, the things that are being built on Veterans Parkway. We just had a 2-story structure, brick, really nice. If you haven't gone back there, go past Menards. Really great quality building. I'm super happy about it. So it's going to be commercial growth also on 10th Street and all the jobs that will support. We grow about 12.5% every 5 years. That's just natural job growth, which is pretty healthy. River Ridge, that's a whole other story. They're adding about 7,000 jobs every 5 years. So, and I have a feeling that that's going to exponentially increase, and so do they, especially if the mega site takes off. So what we're looking at is based on our commuting trends, our housing patterns, all the census data that we have available, which is outlined in that report. We're expecting to need 4,700 new housing units. That's a growth over what current stock we have, how many housing units we have today, of 23%. So what does that mean? Can we fit them? Well, we've ran the numbers. We know by our zoning code how much land we have, how much land is required per minimum lot. So R1, R2, R3, all those have standards. We know that if we put those numbers in, and we know how many acres are currently zoned each thing, and we basically just model out, if we continue developing as we've done today, and we do the same percentages for those new housing units, how much land is that going to require us to have to build that same thing with these new housing units? Well, unfortunately, the message is we're 200 acres short. That's a third of a square mile. That's a pretty healthy loss or lack of land. By 2027, we're going to need 10,000 units, and that's going to be a loss or a lack thereof, a land deficit of 1,777 acres, which is 2.78 square miles. Again, these are conservative numbers. I think that the housing demand, for numerous reasons that are outlined in the report, are going to be higher than what we're projecting, and we're trying to be as conservative as possible and not try to bump those numbers up. And we're also only capturing a small percentage of that workforce growth as housing. We know that people are going to commute. We already know that. It happens today. So what does that mean for the downtown residential overlay district? Well, part of the solution for making a place for those people to live is giving those people, well, a place to live. And 15% is what we would like to achieve for downtown residential units out of that 4,700. What that means is 705 new units downtown, generally. And it doesn't have to be in this map. It could be in this map and then all the peripheral areas. But we don't want it to be out at River Ridge. We want at least 15% downtown to help us achieve our housing needs and get us into a positive land bank rather than a negative. Gives us room to grow in the future in the next 25, 35, 50 years rather than having no room left at all. So what this map is basically doing, and the way we created this map is we looked at what's all of our high value amenities and what is all the public dollars been spent on in downtown. Where do we have the most impact and how can we get the most people enjoying the most benefits, which is at the end of the day what the city's here to do. We're here to provide as many services to as many people as possible and have them enjoy those things. So we basically started looking at, okay, well, we've developed the Big Four Station Park, we've put in the new marina, we did the Terrace Lawn, we have the River Stage, we helped with the Ohio River Greenway and its connection throughout two jurisdictions. We've also reconstructed Chestnut Street to get people from Big Four to downtown Jeffersonville, and we also have invested in many, many, many restaurants with forgivable loans. So we want those things to be successful. We want to augment those, and we want to make people enjoy those facilities. So that's how we crafted this map. And if you look to the north there, Court Avenue is at the very top, and you'll see there's a bit of a triangle. That is the beginning of the Arts and Cultural District, and that's our new gateway, exit basically 0. It's going to be our new gateway. That is going to be the first thing that so many people see when they enter the state of Indiana and they do get off that exit for whatever reason. It's a real opportunity for us to make something showcase and make us a nice community. So I just want to run you through where our code is today. So today we have some residential setback requirements that are very suburban. We don't have a zoning code that reflects what we need as far as downtown residential growth. And so what you end up with, this is the Foundry lots. I'm pretty sure everybody knows about these. What you have is basically one kind of center-oriented building with a racetrack of circular traffic around and then parallel parking spot or diagonal parking spots around the periphery. I think you've already seen this. This is Beverly Manor Apartments on Maple and Mulberry. And I don't think that that is the image that we should continue to strive for moving in the future. I think that they're a fine apartment complex, they're clean, and we get almost no violations on them, by the way, through code enforcement, which is great. Just want to put that in there. So it's nothing bad about that development, but I just don't think that that's the best thing that we can achieve. So that is where we are today and why we need to fix our zoning code to allow for that growth and development that we'd like to see. So this is a potential. We just mocked up a potential use of that site that's a little bit different and would be allowed under this downtown overlay zoning ordinance to fill out those blocks, to bring those buildings up to the street face, do some setbacks when it's next to single-family residential. If you look there on the left, you can see we've pushed it back from the property line, and then we've also stepped back the third floor, which helps mitigate some of those shadow lines and things like that and impact and massing. So those types of provisions are in the ordinance as well, so that there are setbacks that help when it's next to single-family residential. But I think we can do even better. I think we can strive for this, but we can do even better. We can go further and actually meet our housing demand for the future by doing additional setbacks and step-ups and step-ins that allow us to just get a little bit higher. If you look at that image there, that's actually a 6-story structure with a 7th-story cupola. You wouldn't think that, I don't think, if you first saw that building, but that's a 6-story building. It's actually extremely well fenestrated with windows. It has great material usage. It's got limestone, brick, and some metals on the roof. I think it looks outstanding. So I think that we should strive to get the best that we can do, and I think that there's a lot of developers out there that are looking to invest in us in the future. So why should we do this? Beyond the fact that we see a workforce growth, which with that we are going to see increased population, we should capture that. There's many other benefits. So when we increase density specifically downtown, what it does is it increases the general vibrancy. You have more people on the street, there's more activity, more interesting activities, people going about their day, shopping in the restaurant, going to the restaurants, doing yoga in the park, taking their dog for a walk, meeting a friend for coffee. All those great things that we want people to do in downtown, we can further enhance that when we have more people living down here. So it's going to increase that activity, and that there's not going to be lull moments as much. The more eyes on the street, let's just face it, the more eyes you have, the more safety there is. People can look out for each other, and there's that neighborhood aspect as well. This also highly supports the development of the arts and cultural district. Festivals, concerts, museums, activities, the outdoor living room concept. It's only going to enhance that, because as these residents live here, they're going to invite their friends, their neighbors, their relatives, people from out of state, and it's going to improve our tourism aspect. Obviously, when we have more people downtown, there's a local spending power that gets increased, because some of those dollars are going to be spent in our restaurants, in our retail, in our services. So it equals business success when you increase the number of people living downtown. A couple more things. So it also is going to bump up land values, because let's face it, when you build taller, the land becomes more valuable. The building is more valuable. So the tax assessment is higher, and there's more taxes coming in. So more residential units, you're going to increase those values. The other big thing I'd like to talk about is let's again realize that we want to provide the most services and the most benefits to as many people as possible. And how do we do that? Well, we've already spent all this public money, public taxpayer money, on things like Big Four Station Park, on the marina. We've already got all these great infrastructure amenities in our downtown. Let's bring people to them and let them enjoy them as much as they can. The other thing is it helps us stay competitive, because if you don't have the right housing mix, then you don't get the skilled young workforce. It doesn't support River Ridge. It doesn't support other businesses and offices in the community. It can help by bringing those people in to live in your community. And of course, there's a growing segment of the population, many segments of the population. There's 90 million, whether you like them or not, there's 90 million millennials, young professionals, and they've overtaken actually baby boomers as the number of most eligible voters, I just found out when I was doing this research. There's also 70 million baby boomers that are entering their senior years. In 2016, they're entering, the first of them are entering their 70s. What that means is you're going to have a lot of people that are looking to downsize, have smaller units, get rid of their single-family house in the burbs, and maybe come into downtown and live there. It also takes into account empty nesters, so families who have college graduating kids, or kids going off to college and things like that. Sometimes they'd like to downsize as well. But the two segments of the population that have expressed clear preferences for housing that aren't necessarily single-family residential, which is the millennials, 90 million, and 70 million senior baby boomers, are driving some trends in multifamily development. So, the Downtown Overlay District as a whole, it's looking to remove development barriers that provide for beneficial development downtown, so that's commercial and residential. It's all in the name of creating a better, vibrant downtown and a pedestrian environment. We need to potentially house 4,700 to 10,000 new residential units in our city, and that's going to be very tough for us to do with our current land holdings without annexation or moving that boundary out, and that's obviously something that is very difficult. We need to demand higher than available land. Under current building patterns, excuse me for the typo, but basically under the current building patterns, we're going to run out of room. So there's also the factor of how much land we have left to develop. And again, I just want to reinforce the idea of bringing people to the amenities, because I think that's how we define ourselves as a community. Most people don't have a walking bridge. We need to capitalize on that and take advantage of that and continue pushing that forward, so that all the success that we've had doesn't wither away due to lack of future investment and lack of people living in downtown. So that's going to conclude what I have. I'm not going to get into the details of the ordinance. I just wanted to give you that brief overview. and I'll move on from there.
Mr. Pruitt?
Yes.
quick. Have you taken into consideration our infrastructure and the needs that we'd have to do, what we need to improve? Because you're bringing more people in, more people on our roads, more people using our sewer system. We already have a CSO issue
Right.
that we are addressing.
So there's a couple things. I have spoken with Len Ashak and discussed some of the sewer issues. Obviously, developers have to pay impact fees or sewer capacity fees, rather, to help improve those services. Currently downtown, we have a plant that's not anywhere near fully utilized for its flow. It has plenty of room to absorb many, many, many units. Whether pipe sizes are correct and things like that, those are things that will have to be taken into consideration as we develop. And that's a conversation that I think we're all willing to have, and that's, when developers want to build things, and if they want to spend millions of dollars, then they're probably going to have to share in that cost, and I think that's a conversation that needs to be had at that time. I can't say for certain what will happen. But generally, as a planning concept, it's actually much more expensive. You probably don't think that initially, but it's actually much more expensive to develop in a reduced density format where you actually do large lots or medium-sized lots, and then you have to connect sewers down every single road, and you have to pave and then maintain every single square foot of pavement that you put in. When you go higher in downtown, you concentrate the services that are having to be provided on 1,200 feet or 400 feet, whatever it is, 400 feet of infrastructure versus thousands and thousands and thousands of feet of infrastructure in some of our subdivisions. So I don't have specific numbers for you, but generally it ends up being a lot less burdensome on the city. It's pretty easy for us to maintain that way, especially when the infrastructure is already there. Our roads are already there.
Yeah, but talking about our infrastructure, like right now when I go down in Spring Street, especially certain times during the day, and you're adding more people to our downtown,
Sure.
you're at a gridlock in Spring Street.
There are some signalization issues that need to be taken care of with Andy's office. I've had these conversations with Andy and Rob. There's also traffic patterns that need to be taken into consideration with multifamily development that aren't the same as single family. So I think that, and I've got a lot of that data, but I don't want to draw this out.
I know, but it's something to keep.
I absolutely agree with you that all those are very valid concerns and very important things to consider when we move forward.
And talk about adding that turning lane at the corner of Spring and Court.
Yes, there are turn lanes.
Hold-up is.
Yeah.
And you have the construction, which is rerouting people, so that's a little bit different as well. But when Spring Street is backed up between Court and Maple, there's no one on Wall and Pearl. So.
Yes, and you're correct. The engineer's office and the planning office are currently working on signalizing a left turn from both directions on Spring onto Court, which is going to alleviate a lot of issues moving forward.
And I've spoken with Jorge about the capacity, and his understanding was that we had the capacity for additional use, which coincides with what Nathan just said. And the other issues that we have are not, they aren't the same things, so.
Hey, Nathan.
Yes.
On the first article, Exhibit C, Article 9 amendment that we got, you may have already explained this, it's different than the second one we got. So was this first one presented to Planning Commission?
Yeah, so I'll just quickly clarify. What had happened is that the official legally certified by Plan Commission document has not changed at all. It is still the exact same document with zero changes. What has occurred is that on accident we hit print on an earlier draft and gave the draft to City Council and the clerk. So that is my office's mistake.
So the Planning Commission got this one?
They certified the official with no changes since the one that I provided tonight. Correct. Yes.
That's correct.
I'm just checking.
Yep.
Are there any other questions from the council before we open a public hearing? Okay,
thank you.
Workshop, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Shoot, yeah, I'll try.
With respect to the height, we have a building downtown right next to the
Is this the Harbors?
Arms.
Okay. I don't want to draw too many comparisons because that is very much different and not Class A space, but it is taller, yes.
At one point, maybe it was, maybe not now. But it's, the height is seven stories, right?
Yes, I believe so. I believe it's 11, either 10 or 11, yeah.
The other issue, to your knowledge, it's my understanding that nothing has been decided on any of these parcels we're talking about.
No, there are no current development plans or development agreements, to my knowledge, unless OTH at the American Legion is finished. Okay, so Les is saying no, so there are none, to my knowledge, that are approved or in the works to be approved. Well, OTH is obviously in the works, but at American Legion, but none have been approved officially.
Because I've been hearing a lot that the city has decided on certain parcels, not excluding that one, that certain things are going to happen. I just want to get some clarification that that's not the case.
As far as I understand, redevelopment commission, and you've got two council persons that sit on there, no decision has been made. They could further clarify on what will happen with Colston Park. That is still a to be considered location.
And they're accepting options as far as you know.
Yes.
Sure.
To clarify, just to piggyback, he mentioned, or you may have mentioned the harbors. The harbors, as I read the overlay district, actually wouldn't be in compliance with the overlay.
If, in what regard?
If someone wanted to say, if someone came in and said, today we want to build the harbors 2 right
Oh,
next
yes,
door,
right.
they would not be eligible under these restrictions, as they do not have, would exceed the height allowance, even though there is an increased height allotment. And then they also don't meet the criteria when it comes to the standard of materials being, that would be necessary in a building.
Correct.
And they don't meet the necessary,
there are elements.
Basically, the facades wouldn't be eligible under this type of overlay district. It would have to be something of higher quality. Is that not right?
Correct, yes. So
the building itself.
And that is why I mentioned, let's not draw too many comparisons to the high-rises that we already have. Not to say that they're a poor quality development per se, it's just that they were built in a time that's much different from today, and we have different expectations of ourselves and of our city and how we represent ourselves. And in materials, stone and brick are much better than EIFS and metal and those types of things. So you're correct in saying that the harbors, it wouldn't meet some of those standards today, so we would push those developers to get a better plan together. And it's interesting that you mentioned that, because if a developer came in today without this overlay district and tried to build something in downtown Jeff, they couldn't do it. And it's very likely that they would go away. They would leave the community and not build, because right now we have a 40-foot height maximum. Obviously, we've done this before. It worked out fine, and a lot of people enjoy those units there. So.
And the 40 feet in the overlay district would expand to what?
It would expand to 100 feet with an additional 5-foot step back at the 40-foot height. So at 40 feet, the building face would have to step back 5 feet, and then it could go up to 100. But there are certain provisions in there. If you read, when it abuts a R3 property with a single-family home, there's an additional requirement for the building face to be set back further, and then also some height step back, other requirements. So it's more nuanced than just 100.
So 40 feet, then a setback, and an additional 60 feet, or an additional 100
An additional 60 up to 100 total.
And what are the floor-to-floor measurements in height that you typically see?
A lot of the new commercial, the multifamily development that you see, people are demanding higher ceiling heights. They don't want 8 anymore, so you don't build a 10-foot deck and then get an 8-foot ceiling. Nobody builds that anymore. So generally you see things that are decked at probably about 12 to 15. It depends on the developer and what kind of space they're going for and what price point. The higher the ceilings are, the less floors they have, the less units, so the price per unit goes up. So it kind of depends, but 12 to 15 is generally a good number to go with.
Even if we said 10 feet, it would be 10 floors.
Yeah.
10 feet would be
10 feet would be 10 floors, but
shorter
again,
than the Harpers.
that's kind of about a step with the current trend.
So then in 12, which is what you would anticipate seeing, would be 8 floors.
Correct. It's like 8.33, basically. So basically 8. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything else? Okay, at this
Thank
point.
you.
At this point, we're going to open a public hearing. Remind that we are not going to take any action as a council this evening. We will meet again in 2 weeks and, well, we will take action to table. We will not approve or deny at this meeting tonight. So at this point, we're going to open a public hearing. There are several people who have signed up for public comment. We're going to go through those first. If there's others that would like to speak at the end of that, then we'll address that at that time. We'll have 3 minutes after you've given your name and address for the record. And our first will be Case. Is that Case Cooper? Kuiper, excuse me. And just, as I said, give your name and address for the record, and then your 3 minutes will start.
Yes, good afternoon, or good evening, I guess not at this point. My name's Case Kuiper. My wife and I reside at 322 West Market Street. We've been residents of Rose Hill for about 5 years now. One of the key elements of moving here, we have come to truly appreciate where we live, especially the commitment to preserve and protect Rose Hill as the oldest historic neighborhood in the city. I wish to thank the members of the City Council for this opportunity to voice my concerns regarding the proposal before you to amend the current building height ordinance, specifically directed at the downtown overlay district map that we saw up before. My concerns are as follows. First of all, Rose Hill is the oldest and designated historic neighborhood in Jeffersonville. It's been stated by many that there is a need and a precedent to maintain and preserve the original presence. The current ordinance regarding building heights allowable to 40 feet, it is our belief that this limit protects our neighborhood, our homes, our property values, and further strives to protect the historic image of Rose Hill. Allow me to be clear here. We, the homeowners and residents, many who have filled this chamber tonight, we are not anti-development. We are not anti-growth, and we are not anti-density. We simply want to see a commitment to preserve what we have, our historic look and feel, and to blend in opportunities of smart, sound development moving forward. Passing the proposed amendment before you this evening will simply throw out the very protections we have by a 40-foot ordinance of height restriction. A vote to raise the building height to allow 100 feet is simply just not smart growth. The sheer idea that by passage of this proposal, we are all subject to having a structure of 100 feet overshadow our homes. If this is what we want, what will our visitors, bridge walkers, and tourists think of us? A strange mix of single-family, owner-occupied historic homes with high-rise building jammed into a small space available. Please take note, this proposed amendment is all about high-density, multifamily rental housing. As I'm sure many of you are aware of, there already exists a proposal to redevelopment to locate about 180 apartment units on land that was advertised to developers for single-family homes. Clearly, we have opportunities before us. We need patience and forethought to secure the right projects. As I have stated, the current 40 feet height ordinance clearly protects the neighborhood from towering structures, preserves property values, and maintains the historic preservations of the neighborhood. Creating an opportunity for any high-rise, high-density apartment building in the middle of any historic neighborhood would forever change the look and the feel of the area.
Finish up.
Thank you.
Your thought there, sir.
Would it not be prudent to explore what can be done within the 40 feet? I implore this council, a no vote will maintain the current height ordinance and request any proposal to be reviewed on its own merits. I'm suggesting specific project, specific location, involvement with the neighborhood to see if it's the right fit and the right development.
Thank you, sir.
I have a couple more.
That was your,
Am I?
more than the allotted time.
Okay. I appreciate that, and I look forward to the opportunity of completing these comments in a couple of weeks.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Glenn Zwanzig?
Thank you. I'm Glenn Swansik. My wife and I live at 311 Pearl Street. We've lived there now for, since March. Last March, my wife and I downsized from Louisville to a small home on Pearl Street. Prior to moving, we had looked at several communities in the Nulu and Highland areas of Louisville, and we compared them with the Rose Hill neighborhood. We fell in love with the neighborhood. Didn't take us long at all. Now I'm very concerned over plans and designs the city of Jeff has on this neighborhood. This is now the third meeting I've attended involving this plan. At each of the first two meetings, I heard city officials become defensive as the issues were addressed, and bringing up issues, they turned around and brought up issues that had absolutely nothing to do with our neighborhood, excuse me, in an attempt to divert our issues. One city council member went on the attack stating that certain people in our neighborhood association would never be satisfied. Other city officials acted surprised that our neighborhood association even knows about plans to erect the large complexes in these areas. The plans changed from putting in brownstones to apartment complex, and now an attempt is being made to change the building codes to change the height restriction on this area so that an even larger complex can be put in. I saw in both of the first two meetings a deaf ear by city officials to any concerns expressed by my neighborhood association, and we are the people being impacted by these decisions. Deciding to look into the plans, I obtained a copy from Nathan Pruitt. I asked why the area north of Court was not being considered for apartments. His comment was that the plans are for an arts area north of Court and that the residences would not be compatible. Well, this seems to conflict with what is happening in the Nulu area of Louisville, because that's exactly what they're doing, and it's very successful. As I walk and drive around the community, I see several areas that seem to be a better fit for these apartment complexes anyway. The idea that the city is not going to have enough housing to support the expected growth is just a diversion from the real issue. Taking a historical community and forcing high-density housing into a small area makes no sense when there are more logical spaces for those apartments to be located in. There's another issue that has been mentioned that should enter into this decision, and regardless of what Nathan says, the Courier-Journal recently reported that the city's requesting a 10-year extension on fixing our sewage system. So there is a problem. And if you walk outside of our home in the mornings, you can smell the issue. It is very odorous at times. You put these high-density areas in there, and that is only going to impact an already antiquated system. It's old, it's antiquated, and at times, as I said, very odorous. And now the city's planning on increasing population density, which will place more of a burden on an already ailing system. This seems irresponsible and seems to me to be poor planning. The only thing that seems to make sense is that someone or somebody, some group in the government has an agenda and is determined to get it done in spite of the people in this neighborhood, most specifically the Rose Hill neighborhood. Perhaps it's time that our neighborhood should seek legal action. Thank you.
Okay. Charlie Smith?
My name's Charles Smith, Building and Development Association, also the local liaison for the National Association of Home Builders. I'm also a Jeffersonville resident personally. I've handed out a packet in front of all you all this evening. I'm not going to go through the 100 and some odd pages that are in front of you. I'll give you a short synopsis on it. Basically, it's just a general overview of the economic impact of multifamily housing on an area in the state of Indiana. These are Indiana numbers based on a 2013 and 2014 study. Part of the study that was done out of the planning office I felt it did not take into account the overall economic impact, so I wanted to bring that to your attention. There are some housing numbers in there, but because this is an overlay issue with multifamily, I wanted to put those in highlight. We would have to agree as an organization that there is going to be a housing shortage in the city of Jeffersonville from the amount of property available. If something is not done, you're going to see a lot of those potential developments move to surrounding communities outside of this municipal jurisdiction, mostly Clark County. Floyd County is going to see some of it as well, even though they're coming up on a land shortage as well. So as far as this overlay, from a smart growth situation with our organization, our mission statement is smart growth for the long-term economic stability of a community. We do agree with that statement from the planning office. As far as some of the height concerns, that's obviously a point of view from the residents that's taken into account from this council. We're not going to get into the nuances of the overall ordinance itself, but the idea of using this overlay district for high-density multifamily seems to fit with obviously the comprehensive plan, which we support and we're part of. We also feel like this is a great opportunity for the city of Jarrettsville to kind of take a step ahead compared to some of the other southern Indiana communities. This is a great opportunity to introduce a mixed use, mixed living style housing option, which has never been available in southern Indiana before. So with that being said, if anyone has any questions on housing or issues, economic impact or otherwise, I'll be glad to answer that. I encourage you to look through those housing reports, see what the overall true economic impact is on housing, including multifamily. I'd be glad to address the council in the workshop here in a couple weeks. Thank you.
Mr. Smith, can I have your phone number in case I have any questions?
Yes, my office is 812-280-1600. I'll be glad to meet with you one-on-one or as a group, as long as it's not a majority, obviously, or there again within the public workshop section. Thank you.
Mary Jo Carrico.
Hello, my name is Mary Jo Carrico. I live at 217 West Market in Rose Hill neighborhood downtown. Is that okay? Okay. We eliminated 2 full blocks of the homes in Rose Hill through the construction of the Big Four Park. At that time, it was said the city would utilize the area north of Court Avenue, the current Arts and Culture District, for major housing infrastructure to repopulate downtown Jeffersonville. From one administration to the next, we as citizens need to have responsible government and smart development. By allowing a blanket raising of the height variance citywide without any regard to current zoning restriction will only encourage developers to walk over the residents' quality of life. I ask you about the house next door to me for sale. How can I stop someone from tearing it down and building a 100-foot building if this variance passes? Why is it necessary to forego reviewing development project by project? Where's the benefit for this variance? Why would we want visitors walking over the Big Four Bridge to have their view blocked by tall buildings built in Rose Hill? Also, people like us who enjoy a beautiful view of the river from all angles, including from the alleys, could in the future suffer the loss with a blanket variance permitting tall structures on Riverside Drive. I thought part of our charm was the small town atmosphere. Visitors stop and talk to me about the ability to get away from the Louisville big city and suburban atmosphere, commenting how they enjoy walking through our neighborhood. Immediately when the word went out about this apartment building, I thought of parking. Everybody is going to need a place to park. If you want people to come down to enjoy our venues, where are they going to park? We're going to have a congestion of traffic and parking, and then how are the pedestrians going to be safe? I went and looked up the R3 district zoning just to look for something to have a basis for why I'm here speaking. And it says it is intended to provide a land use category for small lots and single-sized family detached homes. The provisions that regulate this land use district should protect, maintain, and promote, where possible, the old city residential character in Jeffersonville. Jeffersonville's Plan Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals should strive to protect this district from business encroachment, conflicting land uses, and non-family oriented businesses. The Plan Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals should strive to promote an average net density of 7 to 8 dwelling units per acre in this R3 district. In closing, it seems to me there are large vacant lots in the Arts and Culture District which have no plans for development and could be mixed with residential construction. While we have been cooperative to most changes in our neighborhood, I request our city adheres to its current ordinances. New projects need to be looked at individually for attributes that will complement our city. A global city height variance at this time will destroy Jeffersonville's culture and atmosphere. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes. How long have you lived there? 2004, about.
You live in the Fisher House, right?
Yes. You're welcome.
Pat Barrow?
Thank you. My name's Pat Barrow, live at 1800 Dutch. Pretty much you took care of what my concern tonight was, and that's giving the neighborhoods a voice to see what they need and what they want in the development. Couldn't be more pleased that there will be a workshop, and I will reserve my comments for that. Thank you.
Okay. John Campbell? John Campbell? No? Oh. Okay, gotcha.
My name's also on there.
You're on here too, yep. Deb Henderson?
Are we ready? Is it starting? I'm Deborah K. Henderson. I am a member of JNLA. I'm also a resident of Franklin Commons, which is part of this overlay district. I don't have all that much to add except what's wrong.
200, your address.
Oh, I'm sorry, my address, 222 Meigs Avenue, Jeffersonville, Indiana. I don't have much to add because of, as everyone else is saying, we're looking forward to the next meeting. I am a bit confused. When Nathan started this evening, he was talking about the last meeting where we had the school board, so that they would see what was going to happen in the downtown area for the more children. More people, meaning more children, meaning that the schools would be better. On the other hand, what he is proposing, as you've heard him say, is millennials, young professionals, and empty nesters. I don't know where the kids went, in between. So that is an issue. I also have an issue, or not an issue, a question, as in what is a residential development? And if that is only a multi-unit, what is a multi-unit? Can that be an owned condo, a townhouse? Do all of these properties have to be rental properties, in other words? And how many of these properties are we looking at in the overlay district? What is wrong with having individual owners of the properties downtown? I would think that they would have more pride in downtown and also take better care perhaps of the property, et cetera, everything that comes with ownership, the responsibility. And like I said before, I look forward to the next meeting. Thank you.
Brandy Brewer?
Ms. Henderson, I'm sorry, how long have you lived in Meigs?
I've lived in downtown Jeffersonville for 6 years.
I'm Brandy Brewer. I live at 321 Pearl Street, and I am the sitting president of Rose Hill Neighborhood Association, and I look forward to our next meeting. That's all I have to say for tonight.
Is it Janet?
I don't need to speak.
Nope. Okay. Stacy Thompson?
My name is Stacy Thompson. I live at 3120 Georgian Way. I'm glad that you guys have decided to table this for this evening. I think there's a lot of things that need to be considered. You know, I've been coming to a lot of city council meetings, and I see a lot of tax abatements, TIF districts, things like that. I would encourage you, if development does continue, which we hope it does in downtown Jeff, to take into consideration not allowing for huge developers to come in and then incentivizing them further with tax abatements that put a strain on the rest of the city. Something else I'd like for you to consider is we have a good opportunity right now, with the walking bridge, to really pull across some of the people who live in downtown Louisville or would desire to live there. A lot of that would be University of Louisville students. The dentist, University of Louisville has a medical school, a dentistry school, all kinds of great opportunity for transient renters that would be here for, a little more than a year. That would be great to have those people in our small town. They could bike to work. It's just really ideal for people like that. As a real estate broker, I do see desire for downtown living with these young people, mostly young people. I think that would bring a lot of support to our Spring Street businesses that we need. We've dumped a lot of money into that area. We just have to get people living down there. And I don't know if the overlay is the answer. I'm not a planner, but I do know that we do need some change. We're in a seller's market right now. We have a homeownership shortage everywhere in southern Indiana. Jeffersonville is kind of at the top of my list for my buyers right now. As a proponent for home ownership, I would like to see a lot of these, if we do this overlay, I would like to encourage that we do have some opportunity for additional home ownership. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Brandon Denton?
I'm Brandon Denton. I am a new business owner. I have 2 businesses in the downtown district that we're referring to. The first business is at 131
Okay, sorry.
West Chestnut Street, and the other one's located at 117 East Riverside Drive. I come up here as a business owner in this overlay district, and just to kind of let you know from a Louisvillian perspective, because I'm from Louisville, the only reason that my firm came over here in the first place, and we're very active in southern Indiana at this point, and decided to take these 2 buildings and renovate them into businesses that hopefully will be very successful and add to the economic growth, is because of what we've seen over here so far. Nathan had said it earlier. Why, for lack of a better term, waste all the tax dollars and all the momentum that you guys have built over here by creating this beautiful park, Big Four Station Park, the pedestrian bridge, capitalizing on the downtown bridge, the new marina, the River Park stage. So all of these things are what attracts people, developers, business owners like me, and also attracts folks that want to live and eat and spend money downtown. The downtown has a finite amount of space, and I hear a lot of fear about multifamily, but the cold fact is, without multifamily that creates the density that is feasible for these finite pieces of land in downtown Jeffersonville, you're not going to have a viable housing allotment for folks that are going to be coming over here and spending money, wanting to live, especially with the job growth at River Ridge, and the folks that I feel like myself want to start coming over here from Louisville because of the downtown bridge and the connectivity of the pedestrian bridge. So you're going to have a ton of jobs coming over. You've seen the report, thousands, literally thousands of jobs that are going to be created, and folks are going to want to live in southern Indiana because of those jobs. You don't want people moving to Louisville and working over here. You want people living here and working here. And you have one opportunity to get this right. And I think from a developer's perspective, the plan that was presented today is very responsible. Quite frankly, as a developer, it's going to be more expensive for someone like me to come in here and do the facade elements and the setbacks and the materials and all those things that Nathan talked about, versus coming in here and doing an EFIS-filled building that is just one flat facade and calling it a day. So I think that the plan itself is extremely responsible. I think it respects the historical features, the historical architecture that already is in the Rose Hill neighborhood. I respected, and my firm respected that architecture when we renovated the bed and breakfast. We're in the middle of the renovation actually, but as we go through that renovation, we're very respectful for the historic nature of that building and all the neighbors around us, and the same thing with the old house that we renovated on Riverside Drive. So I get it. I understand that there's a lot of importance placed on the historical attributes of Rose Hill.
So just to, as a conclusion, I think this is a great choice for the continued economic growth of the downtown city, and I think it's also a very responsible choice if this city wants to elevate itself and continue to grow. Thanks.
Okay, that's exhausted the list that I have. Was there anyone else who'd like to speak in favor, opposed to the change? Just name? Just give your name and address, please.
Deb Bullitt at 309 Pearl Street. I don't know if I can make the next meeting, so I'm just going to go ahead and talk, even though I don't have anything prepared. And a couple of things. One is, for instance, I'm going to be working at the polls all day tomorrow, so I'm already kind of tired. And then the next night I have a Medicare seminar, and the next night, 4 nights after that, I'm doing a jail program. So I'm just saying that to demonstrate that I'm just kind of eclectic by nature, so I have no problem with who lives around me. But I think you're right. I think we got one chance to get this right. I've lived in most of the zip codes in Louisville, just checking things out. I just love diversity. And when I moved over here, I actually made this decision to move here when I was kind of tired. I was tired of looking in Louisville for an affordable, cool place. And so I found this house that had just been redone. I was tired of thinking about redoing it, and I found this little shotgun house at 305 and moved in. And almost the next day, well, pretty soon after that, I realized that I'd probably made a mistake. Because though even though it looked really cool, like Highlands and Crescent Hill and all that, when people walked down the street, they would look down at their feet. They wouldn't talk. My shoes were stolen from my front porch. There was a slumlord next to me across the street and over here. And I thought, damn, I really should have considered this more. Then all of a sudden there became this too cool for school canal plan. I thought, well, that's really cool, but it didn't surprise me when it didn't go, because it's Indiana. I grew up in New Albany. It's like, okay, I'm back on the dull side of the river. You know, we don't plan well, and we regret it later, or we just don't do anything. And then all of a sudden came this bridge. Well, I didn't really believe anything was going to happen because it's Indiana. And then all of a sudden, Jeff somehow got ahead of everything and did this really neat redesign of this downtown area. And all of a sudden, people from my friends from Louisville are saying, man, you live in just the coolest place ever. You know, I'm like, yeah, this is really cool. I can't believe that I just happened into this spot. Now, the thing about who's going to go in that place behind me, what concerns me is the thing about getting it right immediately. We have to have people there that can afford to walk downtown and take, I mean, a lot of days I can't afford it, to go downtown and have those nice restaurants. I mean, you want people that can do that almost every day. The people, if you crowd them in there and get mostly renters, those people are going to be going to McDonald's. And we don't want, we need to do this well. We don't want to like undo this beautiful thing that we have done. And so if we're on a slippery slope here, we've got to do this well. We've got to get, I don't care how rich they are, but if we want them to support downtown, they need to be able to afford it. And high-rise renters may not be able to do it. And then I agree with Skip, who said, well, Skip, I don't know about Skip, was it Greg? Skip, my neighbor, I walk outside in the morning and I smell the sewer too. I mean, we've just got to plan this right, and I'll shut up and go away.
Ma'am, what was your name again? I'm sorry. I didn't catch it.
Deb Bullitt at 309 Pearl, and I don't remember how long I've been there, maybe 14, 15 years. Anybody, any of my neighbors know? They keep track better than I do.
Were there any others that'd like to speak for or against?
Hello, Josh Thompson, 402 West Market Street. Do better without a microphone, so hopefully everybody.
Oh, please don't do that.
All right, I'll stand back here. Can you still hear me? All right, 402 West Market Street. I built the house about 4.5 years ago, anticipating some development happening downtown. I like what's happened so far, like the Big Four Park, the marina, but who down here has gone to River Stage event? Is it crowded now? Put 7,000 more units. How about the park on a Saturday? Beautiful afternoon.
What's it like? Is it crowded? Put 7,000 more units. I don't have a problem with the plan that is outlined, with the exception of two things. Number one, the height blanketed over the entire area. And number two, Colston Park. Talk about infrastructure. That park is already pretty crowded on warm summer nice days. The river stage is crowded during events. Getting rid or blockading Colston Park is just a bad idea. That's it.
Any others?
How are you all doing? I'm Melody Carrico, and I live at 112 Clark Street. I moved to 112 Clark Street in 1978, and I've been there ever since. I have seen change in Jeffersonville. I've seen bad change. I've seen good change. I've seen the building of the harbors. And I hear the harbors on my Facebook tonight talking about their that garage that they have is crumbling down. They can't afford to repair it. The building maintenance people, they're not listening to them. The powers that be. And that comes with that kind of structure. You have your neighbors, they're close, things aren't that pleasant. It can't, and after a while, you have to look, like anything, like my own home, you have to look at repairs. Are they going to be there? I know that we have to have something come to us. We've seen so much growth. We've seen a lot of positive growth, and I'm pleased and proud of my neighborhood. But I do not want to see another high-rise. I don't think we can handle a high-rise. I think you are massacring the ambiance of the Riverside, the historic area, and it's not bringing in there. It's not bringing in any relevant value on a long-term basis. So, I feel that I don't have anything formal written down. I just wanted you to realize that I speak with a lot of other people in my community, that my neighbors, they feel the same way. And I hope that we look at this. And we need to look at this as project per project, not let's just say, okay, we're going to do this, and here we are for the downtown area. But I hope, I look forward to the next couple of weeks, and I'm sure you'll hear from all of us more. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. I gotta find my agenda to figure out what to do next.
City council.
No.
Attorney report, attorney.
Motion
We
to
need
table.
Need a
Motion to table.
No.
That is a motion?
Motion to table.
Second.
There's a motion and several seconds to table 2016 OR 80. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Council attorney report. Department heads, or any department heads that'd like to speak? Mr. Pruitt, you may not. You've spoken up. I think you're the only one here. There's no other public comment. They were all related to the overlay district, so we'll go to council comments. Mr. White.
Thank you. I'd just like to thank Nathan for all the work he's done in trying to put together a zoning package that reflects the plan that the city has adopted and will shape the downtown that will be properly developed, as opposed to just private developers coming in and doing whatever they want and having to live with that. I know it's really hard on me when it comes up here, and I get that. We have to get it right. So I respect that. I just wanted to say thank you, and also work here.
Okay. Ms. Yan?
A couple things from Ed. He had a prior engagement at 9 p.m. and that's why he left early. He did want me to comment for him that at our last council meeting, it was brought to our attention, the sidewalks between Eastern Boulevard and Hamburg Pike, that was an issue that we needed to address. He's pleased to report that Andy is in the design phase of looking at that project, and so that is moving forward, and he will keep us updated on that project as it continues. For my comments, I just wanted to ask, I don't think I got OR 67 to sign. I don't know if it got held
I was
up.
going to bring that up too. We did not.
I think that somehow.
The
that was
landscape fee?
Yes.
Yeah, that one just had a signature for myself.
Okay.
Signature page for myself.
Okay.
Because it was a single reading.
Okay. Great, just making sure. And also, I'm just really looking forward to continuing this conversation. I think it's great that so many people were here tonight and voicing their concerns, and that we had all of that open. I think that's a healthy part of the process, and that's how government should work. So I look forward to our next meeting in a few weeks to continue that conversation.
Okay. Mr. Maples? Ms. Gill?
Just kind of threw it out there today that we do have a workshop, and I am just very pleased. I'm really grateful that we're all taking a step back and listening to everybody's concerns. What is that?
The clocks came
Dun,
back.
dun,
together?
dun, my
Yeah.
dramatic. I was like, okay, I'm getting a hook from getting cut off. I watched the whole
Workshop?
train. Yes, I just went, go on. I'm done. Thank you.
We'll write a note to make sure that, yeah, he should be able to.
Text him.
If you want to text him. Mr. Hawkins?
Oh, this is dramatic. I really don't, just on a lighthearted side, if he hadn't have left, I was going to offer Mr. Zasabny my condolences because his beloved Indians got beaten by my beloved Cubs in the 17 World Series. But that's a little light for tonight's discussion, so that's all I got.
Mr. Samuel?
A couple things. Currently going on right now, there's an artist, Jeremy Jarvis, is painting a mural on the flood wall down directly across from Rockies. And it's the feature of that is it's featuring Nahan Fieldhouse. And if you haven't seen any of that, you ought to go and watch it. It's really neat watching him paint. It's really coming along quick. I think he'll be there potentially up to a week and a half longer. So it's right next to, I think, the one that looks like Water Park. So that's going on right now. Just make a comment about the Sugar Skull Shake Shake that went on a little over 2 weeks ago downtown. Most of the downtown folks probably got to see that. That was a very successful event. I know a lot of folks from the high school, a lot of kids, and even younger were involved with that, and a lot of community involvement. So that was really exciting. And then the third thing is I'd kind of asked for a workshop, but I'm not going to be here at the next meeting. I'm going to be out of town. So a lot of my questions were answered tonight, but I do have some concerns about it. My concerns are we've got so much growth that's happening with the city right now, which is just fantastic. And it's been mentioned that we have one shot to do it right. And I'm just concerned that at certain key areas, Colston Park is one of those, that we make sure and do it right. And so that's just what's on my mind, and I'm not sure if this is what's right. I don't know if, I don't think Nathan was saying that the 11-story or 8-story building was going to go there at Colston. Maybe he did say that's where it's going, but I didn't hear him say that. Okay, I didn't hear him say that. So, that's just concerning, and I hate that I'm not going to be at the next meeting. Thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez?
No, but I am very glad we're having a workshop about it. Seems to be some interpretation, maybe a lack of communication is there, so maybe a little bit more communication with the neighborhood and would be nice. I think they'd appreciate that. Yeah.
Okay. A couple of quick things. Number one, thank you for everybody that did come out to speak on the overlay district. I know I took a lot of notes as people were speaking, and I hope to be able to reach out to several people who have expressed some concerns. Also, again, the 21st, we're going to advertise for 5:30 right here, which is 2 Mondays from now. And then also, I want to talk with council members about potentially getting together in small groups on an unrelated topic. We had discussed maybe setting up another workshop to discuss some financial stuff. So we'll bounce around some ideas on dates for those and some emails, if that's okay. We had talked about doing that maybe in December after the Thanksgiving holiday anyway. So we have time to plan those and get those coordinated with everybody. If there's nothing else,
Motion to
don't
adjourn.
vote. Don't remember to vote. Don't
If you
forget to
haven't
vote.
already.
Yeah.